Superman vs. Goku, the debate of all debates. The 100 years nerd war that continues to rage on in forums, chat rooms, and cons to this day, with fuel being added with every new edition and or adaptation of each character. The idea of who would win in a fight, while interesting to my basic bitch self, pales in comparison to the interest I have for the moral character of both fictional behemoths, and in how they see and approach the worlds that they live in. On the surface, Goku and Superman seem quite similar. You would almost be inclined to believe that Akira Toriyama straight up ripped off Superman in creating and writing Son Goku. Both characters were born on a planet outside Earth. Both of their fathers saw the impending doom of the planet and shipped their sons off to Earth in the hope that they would escape the fate that awaited them. Both were found by humans and grew up to save the Earth time and time and time again. Yet their approaches to life are completely different. So different in fact that it's surprising that they both ended up being heroes at all. A quick disclaimer before I delve deeper, but this comparison is a little muddled because while I've seen both characters in a bunch of different canons, I've seen 3 separate versions of Superman, while the Goku I've seen is basically the same one in the same universe. On the Superman side, I've seen the DCAU version, the DCAMU version, the movies, and the controversial DCEU version. And these are all totally different adaptations of the traditional Superman story. They all follow the same guidelines, but they all also have their own differences through their own nuances and subtleties, as well as a few blatant creative decisions that I can imagine fans differ on in reception. While for Goku, I've seen him in the 3 canon series, as well as the non-canon Z movies, Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Heroes, but these non-canon spin-offs all take place within the same canon as Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Super, and essentially are optional supplements to those original 3 series, rather than being 3 separate adaptations of Goku. So the comparison is a bit lopsided in that I'm comparing 3 versions of Superman to 1 version of Goku, but I'll try my best to keep the comparison to what is true of Superman regardless of the version. The 3 Supermen I've seen all share an uncorrupted spirit, a passion for justice, and the same origin and insane strength. So after both individuals land on Earth as infants, their lives are almost immediately taken on different paths. Superman, born as Kal-El, is found and adopted by Martha and Jonathan Kent, 2 hardworking and kind farmers who named him Clark. Clark's parents, being regular people obviously, had no martial arts prowess of any kind and only provided him a small-town American life. Goku, born as Kakarot, was found by Grandpa Gohan, a martial artist who lived in relative isolation, so he subsequently raised Goku as a martial artist as well. While Grandpa Gohan was a kind person himself, a few key differences are essential to the foundation of each character's personality and worldview. Superman lived in an actual settled town, with tens of thousands of others, so he learned a lot of conventional lessons about the world. How to build relationships with people, to not commit crimes, to respect authority, to go to school and get a job. And his parents, being good people, not racist or insanely nationalist, and being accepting of his alien origin and generally averse to any kind of violence, that definitely found its way to Superman. Because of his positive upbringing, he grew up without any particular racial or cultural bias, without any toxic political views, and to respect people regardless of gender, and he seems rather unfettered by nationalism of any kind. Goku was raised in isolation as a martial artist. He barely had any contact with people aside from Grandpa Gohan, and only developed a real passion for martial arts. He never developed a heightened sense of morality or responsibility, and knows and cares little of the Earth's general conventions. He doesn't have any sort of reverence for authority unless you're his martial arts teacher, and can barely even tell differences in gender when he's first discovered by Bulma. The only earthly thing Goku ever really knew before Grandpa Gohan's early death was ideals of self-improvement as a martial artist. The main reason he doesn't have any particular biases is because he doesn't really know any better. Goku never really got a chance to develop particular views on any of the people around him because he seldom ever saw them. Both characters venture out into the world and discover the perils surrounding them, but Superman did so as a young adult, after a full childhood and adolescence under his parents' guidance. Goku lost Grandpa Gohan pretty early and ventured out as a child with people not too much older or mature than himself. He eventually trained under the tutelage of Master Roshi, but Roshi only really taught him martial arts and was not exactly the kind of guy you want to learn moral lessons from anyway. So Goku essentially grew up with no parental guidance even after leaving his isolation, so he remained relatively unchanged personality-wise, even as he got older, and before he knew it, he himself was a father. Superman throughout his trials keeps in regular contact with his family, and you can imagine that helps him keep his feet on the ground. Superman and Goku both encountered survivors from their planets that tried to recruit them to a galaxy-conquering cause, yet Superman rejected the Kryptonians wholeheartedly at every level. He resented their supremacist attitudes towards other beings, and he didn't care for their knowledge nor their technology, and in the case of the Superman animated series, found himself morally conflicted at the borderline fascist regime that Mala and Jack Sewer created on New Krypton. Goku is opposed to the Saiyans, but his personality is actually quite in line with them. He enjoys a good fight like most Saiyans do, and fully embraces the martial traditions of Saiyan life, making little attempt to go against it. But the sole difference that divided him from the other Saiyans is that Goku lacks any political or territorial ambition. To him, he doesn't need to destroy or kill anyone to prove himself as a fighter, and gaining status over others meant nothing to him. In fact, it's entirely antithetical to who he is because he would be wiping out so much of the future competition he could potentially face. All he wants is to fight for the sake of fighting, in the spirit of sport, essentially, while the Saiyans he meet want to fight to subjugate and rule. Now, both characters will try and stop evil characters from doing evil things, but the ways in which they do it say so much about who they both are. Superman is fully aware of his monster strength and will take any opportunity to not hurt someone. So you see him trying to talk people out of a fight, or trying to find a way to subdue his opponent rather than beat them outright. When Superman holds back, it's out of a concern for the person he's facing, out of a genuine desire to find the least violent solution to a problem. And there wasn't a single instance of Superman trying to become a better fighter either. Even after meeting various strong and intelligent villains, he never once worked on his fighting prowess, because it's not in his psyche to place importance on his fighting skills. While Goku is training relentlessly, all the time, from dusk to dawn, Goku is always itching for a good fight, regardless of whether they're evil or not. He sees every new fighter as an opportunity to test himself. Now, both characters can be pushed into taking an opponent seriously and going all out, but Superman wastes no time in doing so. Once he feels like there's too much at risk, take for example the Death of Superman film, when Wonder Woman warns him not to hold back lest Doomsday kill everybody, which he'd basically been doing already, Superman doesn't waste any time and gives Doomsday his all. Or think of when he kills Zod in Man of Steel, or his fights versus Darkseid in the DCAU. In the first two of those instances, no close friend or family member of Superman had been lost, but he understood the possibility of that happening, and went all out to prevent it. On the flip side of this, Frieza and his army had massacred everyone on Namek, and Goku still saw his fight versus Frieza as a test of his powers. Piccolo Jr. blatantly stated that he wanted to take over the world, but Goku still fought him within the confines of tournament rules, even preventing Kami from ending the fight. In the Tournament of Power, being eliminated would bring his universe closer to literal annihilation, yet he still decides to toy with Jiren, gauging his power level at the start of his fight, rather than going all out at the start. He openly claims dissatisfaction at having to borrow powers from others to take on Beerus, despite those powers being his only chance at the time at stopping Beerus from destroying the Earth. Regardless of the gravity of the situation, regardless of the deeds or plans of his adversary, Goku sees every fight as a challenge to himself, seeing everything from a martial artist's perspective at all times. Goku only ever changes his attitude when he personally loses someone or is harshly given a reality check. Take Symbol and Frieza killing Krillin, or Zamasu killing the alternate timeline version of his family, Piccolo yelling at his negligence making Gohan fight Cell, or Jiren trying to kill the Universe 7 spectators. These tragedies and super close calls are the only things that ever make him take a fight seriously. He has to learn the hard way each time, but it's always temporary, because Goku is a passionate martial artist at heart, before anything else. In the case of the Saiyan Saga, he just straight up didn't care that Tien, Yamcha, Chaozu, and Piccolo all died because of Nappa and Vegeta. He just let Vegeta leave the planet anyway because of the potential challenge. And even their approaches to regular life are fascinating. After discovering his alien origin as a teen, Superman is always pondering his relationship with his powers and the world around him. Since he spent most of his life believing himself to be the only one on Earth with superpowers, he felt almost guilty about it and tried to fit in, creating his Clark Kent persona in Metropolis. I especially found the episode of the Superman animated series where he fakes his own death to be extremely interesting. In that episode, Superman is working on a false conviction story. But to deliver the story, he decides to drive there instead of using his powers of flight, because he wanted it to be a victory as a regular human. It's almost indicative of how Superman wishes he could be normal. That he didn't have all these advantages over humans. Because the Kent family raised him to have a very good moral character, and to not get a big head about anything. Goku has no such reservation. He spent his childhood, adolescence, and early adulthood believing himself to be human, and by the time he discovered himself to be an alien, he was far too set in his ways for any significant change in his personality to take place. He uses every power at his disposal to make life easier for him, and only ever acts normally at Chi-Chi's request. Even then, he tends to drop the act pretty quickly when it gets too inconvenient for him. Goku has fully embraced who he is. He was never taught to take others into consideration or to hide his powers, and he doesn't see it as a big deal that he flies or uses instant transmission to get everywhere. He's not ashamed of his Saiyan appetite, nor does he care about having any sort of manners. To him, using regular means of transportation and communication is cumbersome and unnecessary, and makes no sense, and he doesn't even try to make any sense of it. He's satisfied with who he is and what he already knows. So in summation, Goku and Superman are two very different sides of the same coin. They are both alien exiles with insane power over regular humans who fight evil, but Son Goku and Clark Kent would disagree about most things concerning how to handle their powers and the responsibilities that come with them, making it a miracle that they're even both on the side of good at all. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Join my Discord or follow me on Twitter if you ever want updates on my content or just want to have nerd conversations. Thanks so much everyone for watching, and I hope you all have an awesome day.